But I should stop sharing. Okay, I got it now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Lunch and Learn webinar. We're going to give a few more minutes to everyone so that they can join and won't miss out on our great program that we have today. So we'll just give a few more moments. So thank you everyone for joining us today. The Office of Diversity and Inclusion for our Lunch and Learn series in celebration of Pride Month. Today's Lunch and Learn webinar, Taking Pride in Who You Are, is intended to serve as edification on the history and milestones of a marginalized group. But we also want to allow you the opportunity to hear the stories of your colleagues and their ability to find freedom to be themselves while taking pride in who they are. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Evita Marrow. I serve as the Diversity and Inclusion Program Manager, working under the tutelage of our Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, Retha Fernandez. Both of us, myself and Retha, would like to give a big thank you to our personnel officer, Tom Melito, for his continued leadership. And we are most certainly grateful to our county executive, Steve Ballone, for his inspirational vision to make Suffolk County the employer of choice. So the celebration of Pride marks a historical movement in equal justice. It's a time to promote diversity, equity, and belonging. But more importantly, it serves as a time to increase awareness and visibility within the LGBTQ plus community. Pride Month is celebrated in June with the goal of magnifying the contributions of the LGBTQ plus community, providing education on the history and civil rights of the Pride movement, and commemorating the Stonewall Uprising that took place on June 28th, 1969. The Stonewall Uprisings were a series of events that transpired between the LGBTQ plus community and police, which served as a turning point in activism. But did you know that there were smaller uprisings that preceded Stonewall? So what I want to do now is take an opportunity to share with you all a short video which details the milestones and the LGBTQ plus activism and equal justice.
Hi there.
Who, me?
Yeah, you seem like an average guy.
Well, I love smoothies and drive a Prius if that's what you mean.
Exactly. Quick question. Have you ever thought how your life might be different if you were gay?
Not really. I guess it would be a little harder. Wait, was that homophobic? Oh god, I'm really sorry.
This is a safe space, Carl.
My name is Mark.
Whatever. You're right, though. Being gay has its challenges, but it hasn't always been like this.
Like the Greeks?
Absolutely. The earliest evidence of gay relationships is from ancient Greece, although that was mostly about older and younger men. Did you know Socrates was in the closet?
I didn't. I also didn't know they had closets back then. When did all the crazy homophobia start?
Homophobia seemed to start in the church during the High Middle Ages.
Whoa.
And in the Renaissance, it got even worse.
What happened?
Well, if you were outed, let's just say it would have been bad.
Ah!
There were still plenty of brave people who revolted. On August 31st, 1512, a group of young aristocrats living in Florence staged what many consider history's first gay rights demonstration. But that didn't stop homophobia from migrating to colonial America. In 1776, being gay in any of the Puritan colonies was not allowed.
Jeez. So when did things start to change for the better?
It wasn't until the 20th century that we started to see progress. Gay bars were popping up in major cities, but were frequently raided by the police because being gay was still illegal in every state except Illinois.
Go Bears!
Exactly. One of these bars was the popular Stonewall Inn in New York City. On the morning of June 28, 1969, which also happened to be the day of Judy Garland's funeral, the patrons of the Stonewall Inn decided they weren't going to take it.
Hell yeah.
A black transgender woman named Marsha P. Johnson is credited with leading the uprising that started the modern gay rights movement and putting the T in LGBT. Now, every November, the T's and their supporters recognize Transgender Awareness Week.
This is great. It seems like things were going pretty well.
For a while.
A while? What happened next?
Well, in the early 80s, the world was hit by the AIDS epidemic, and the gay community was hit hardest. AIDS became known as a gay disease. In fact, it was originally called GRID, which means gay-related immune deficiency.
No way.
It's true. Many people think that the government didn't act quickly enough because it was considered a gay disease. So the LGBTQ community had to fight it themselves.
So how did they fight it?
They got organized. Activist groups like ACT UP, the Gay Men's Health Crisis, Lesbian AIDS Project, and the Names Project emerged and refused to be ignored. This newly empowered gay community had one goal.
What was that?
To come out. They thought the problem with homophobia was that people didn't know other people who were gay. And if more people came out, they would be seen for who they are and not just as a stereotype. Convincing people to come out was still a tough task, but things got easier in 1997 when Ellen appeared on the cover of Time magazine and told the world, "Yep, I'm gay." After that, more and more gay people started appearing in TV and movies, helping millions feel more confident to love who they want.
Wow, what a journey. I'm kind of digging myself as a gay person.
Slow down. We're not done just yet.
But we've come so far. Can we just celebrate for a minute?
No time for that, Carl. We still have a lot of laws to change.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Being gay was more accepted, but there were still a lot of rights that gay people didn't have. However, they did have something they didn't have before.
What?
Allies. Yeah, in 2003, Massachusetts became the first state to legalize marriage equality. And 12 years later, it was legal in all 50 states, much in thanks to a majority of Americans who supported it. So as a gay person living in 2019, how would you feel?
Pretty happy I live in the present, grateful for all the heroes who fought before me, and hopeful for the future.
I'm glad, because the fight for equality is still going. It takes a village, and we're gonna need your help.
With Galvani Ricotta, you
So we took a glimpse into some of the milestones. And what I'd like to do right now is introduce our panelists. And our panelists are some of your colleagues who are some of the most talented individuals who are serving in leadership roles within Suffolk County. So first, I'd like to start with Sergeant Tamika Mays. She has been a police officer for 21 years. Of that time frame, she has spent the past 12 years with the Suffolk County Police Department. During her tenure with the Suffolk County Police Department, she has patrolled the 1st Precinct for 4 years and voluntarily transferring to the 4th Precinct, where she was on patrol for 1.5 years, and then transferred to 4th Precinct PCS. In 2017, Tamika Mays was promoted to detective and transferred to the 4th Squad, where she worked for 4 years. In 2021, she was promoted to sergeant, where she supervised police officers in the 3rd Precinct. In January of 2022, she was transferred to the Internal Affairs Bureau, where she investigates certain civilian complaints, all notices of claims, all bias-related complaints, and accidental weapons discharges. Sergeant Mays was recently inducted as a member of the LGBTQ+ Suffolk County Advisory Council. So welcome, Sergeant Tamika Mays. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So next we have Chief Deputy Commissioner Sandra Davidson. In 2001, Sandra Davidson began her career working for the Administration of Children's Services in New York City. During her time in New York City, she held various titles such as Child Protective Specialist, Research Analyst for Curriculum Development for Child Protective Services, and Child Protective Specialist Training Supervisor. In 2008, Sandra was promoted to Director of Field Operations, where she was accountable for the day-to-day operations of 5 child protective units, whose primary responsibilities included investigating reports of child abuse, maltreatment. In 2011, she became the Deputy Director of Field Operations and later advancing her career to serve as Director of Program Development for the Division of Child Protection. In 2017, Sandra became the Assistant Commissioner of Program Policy, Information Technology, and Intergovernment, the Division of Child Protection. In this position, Sandra would create, develop, and manage a variety of programs and initiatives in intergovernmental affairs, in addition to serving as a partner in the Divisional Strategic Planning and Staffing. In 2020, Sandra joined the Suffolk County Department of Social Services, where she serves in her current role as Chief Deputy Commissioner. Sandra serves as a volunteer firefighter with Cherry Grove Fire Department and was recently inducted as well as a member of the LGBTQ+ Suffolk County Advisory Council. Sandra obtained her Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from Long Island University, Southampton campus, and has her master's in social work from Stony Brook University. Welcome, Chief Deputy Commissioner Sandra Davidson.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we have Christian Macario. Christian serves as the Director of Operations for Community Recovery and the County Executive's Office. In this role, he helps to develop strategies to improve county programs and create special initiatives for marginalized communities. On the front lines at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, Christian assisted in the hotspot testing program, vaccination pods, and the county-wide food initiative to help those in need, in particular communities of color. Christian is also part of the county executive's leadership team charged by the Governor's Executive Order 203 to reimagine policing, which has led to the county's robust police reform plan. Christian recently helped the formation and launch of the Suffolk County LGBTQ+ Advisory Board, the first LGBTQ plus countywide advisory board on Long Island. Christian currently serves as the county executive appointee on the LGBTQ plus board. Christian began his career in the construction and development industry in the New York metropolitan area. After the 2016 election, he shifted his political work to work full-time, working on county, city, state, congressional, and national campaigns. Christian also serves as the national chair for now you have to excuse my pronunciation if I get it wrong, I apologize. The national chair of the Union, is it Feruza Latinx Institute?
Close.
Okay. Which develops LGBTQ plus Latinx individuals through leadership development, scholarships, and organizational capacity building in a nationwide alliance. Christian is the first college graduate in his family, and he graduated from SUNY Plattsburgh with a double major in political science and Latin American studies. Welcome, Christian.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to have you all with us this afternoon. So now that I've introduced our panelists, our esteemed panelists, let's jump right into our discussion. So is everyone ready? Great. So the first question that I have, and I would like for each of you to take a moment to answer. So the first question, are there any problems that you faced or know of anyone who faced any problems because they came out as part of the LGBTQ plus community? Christian, you want to go first?
Sure. I think that first I want to thank you and Retha and your whole team for creating this space for us to have these important conversations while there's so much happening in our nation. I think a lot of us in the community know people who have been directly impacted by those who don't always accept us when we come out. And even though it's 2022, it is still extremely difficult and sometimes dangerous, especially for the youth, when they're not accepted and in a home that loves them and supports them, regardless of their identity or sexual orientation. So I don't want to give specific details, I'll let others maybe do that, but there are many stories, very troubling stories. And the good thing is that our community has been able to organize around these people and at times give them support systems. But there's definitely more that we can do. And, I want to thank Sandy because I know she does a lot of that support in that area.
Thank you for sharing, Christian. Sandy, would you like to answer the first question or?
Sure. So as Christian said, and again, I want to thank this, it's really an opportunity to kind of have a really good conversation. There's a quote that's going around, especially what's going around the nation right now. And I don't know who wrote it, but it's going around pretty viral in our community. And when you ask about the problems that you faced, the quote says, "May you never know the fear of having your human rights challenged every time there's an election. And may you never know the pain of watching your loved ones vote against your right to exist fully, equally, and authentically." And I think that really captures that entire essence of your question. Even just as early as this morning, I walk my dogs and having a discussion around the potential for marriage equality to be back on the table and how anxiety ridden it is to wake up every day to know that the person that I love with all of my heart potentially could be looked at as someone who doesn't exist in my life. And I'm not married and that's not a question, but for someone to devalue or have the right to vote against that value for me is painful, it's rageful, and it's anxiety provoking. And that is what each of us carry every single day. And it's just not me, it's the whole community. And we carry that with us every day. So to Christian's point, I mean, there's too many stories to talk about experiences, but I will say the first thing that I experienced as a young person coming out was I'm a hugger. The minute I came out to my friends, that hug meant something different to women.
Right.
And it was it was hurtful, that it meant something different. And now it's not, now as an adult, as a middle-aged adult, I think that we've come a long way, but that was really problematic. And I know that that's problematic for the youth, right? So it's a very huggy society. And youth, when they come out, they share those experiences in the gym, right? Because gyms are separated by male and female. And boys that come out, all of a sudden, there's this different reaction when everyone's getting dressed and undressed in the room. And it's the same thing for females in the gym. So I would say people forget that. That's my first experience. But the quote, I think, captures it for everything for me.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Sergeant Mays, would you like to answer or give any input
Yeah,
for the
to
first?
answer that question, me personally, I grew up in a church, born in Amityville. I came out, I believe, at the age of 16. And the first thing my mother said was, people like that go to hell.
Mm,
Me and my mom have never been close, not just from that, but that didn't help. I can say now that, like, as an adult and have been married to a female and have children, like my whole family is 100% supportive.
that's
But
good.
growing up, I could say, like, up until the age of 18, when I told my younger brother at the time, like, my mother kept that quiet, and I personally had to explain to her that me and God have a certain relationship. That's between me and him, and you don't have to worry about what happens to me later. Just be my mother. That's your job. And after that, like, we're fine. Being a Suffolk County police officer, I can't honestly say that I've had any issues. I know that there are people on the job, civilian and officers, who are not willing to come out because of the fear of retaliation. We do have, administration, an administration that is very supportive to us. But it's just, I don't know what'll happen if you come out in a certain unit, or if you would feel comfortable enough to continue working there, or will they make it their business to make you leave?
Right.
I don't know. That I'm the president of Suffolk County Police LGBTQ Society. So I'm hoping that people, if they have an issue, and I address this all the time, like, come to me and talk to me about it, so that way I can talk to somebody else about it.
It's good
So
that you're being a support for other people.
absolutely. So, like I said, like, even in NYPD, like, I've been openly gay pretty much since 16. And as far as working and stuff like that, I have no issues. But that's, like I said, that's just me personally.
Right.
Or maybe I just have issues and I'm just so ignorant to it. I don't know. Sometimes certain things may go over my head, but if it was point blank in my face, I would know it.
Right.
So
Thank you.
no problem.
So that somewhat kind of segues into our second question, which is, what does your support system look like? And how important is it to have a good support system or allies? So while you're kind of speaking, Sergeant Mays, do you want to kind of take kind of stab at that second question?
I think that is the most important thing to you. And it's not just your family, it's everybody in your surrounding.
Mhm.
You need people so you're comfortable, so you can live a normal life. Like, if it's just your family walking outside, it'll be an issue. You need somebody, you need people who are just not part of the LGBTQ plus, community to accept you. A lot of people may not like, your lifestyle and stuff like that, but we also don't like everything other people do as well. It doesn't mean that we are going to treat you different. We just may not like something and we move on with our life, but I think that is very important. Especially, like, when it comes to me and my kids. I have a 17-year-old son. He loves women. There's not a question about that, but it was an issue for him for a minute until he understood certain things. When kids would be like, well, which mother is picking you up? And that bothered him for a little while. And now he doesn't care.
Right. He embraces it, right?
Yeah, he does. Like, he absolutely does. So, And he's had friends who don't have their mother or their father. So, just having their support and communicating with him and letting him understand, like, your parents are your parents. They love you. You have two mothers. Some people may have two fathers. Some people may not have a mother or father at all. They have grandma, grandpa, or their uncles.
Right.
And just having people understanding that is big. And it just goes full circle. Like, we are a group of people that like love and respect everybody. We just want the same thing back.
Absolutely. Deserve it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sandy?
Sure. So for me, I don't have blood family for a variety of different reasons. So my family is really comprised of amazing people who respect and love me for everything that I am. Since moving out to Suffolk, I do have to say I haven't found my social network on the mainland. My primary family is in Cherry Grove and in the city. I am working hard at finding opportunities to find those social networks out here. And I will be transparent, it has been difficult. There's been one major instance where I've had to call the police because of safety reasons. So to your comment, allies too, allies are such a strong component to our life. But it's not only going to Cherry Grove and hanging out, it's not only going to the Pines, and it's not only going to the clubs at Stonewall, but it's helping us at the voting booths, and it's helping us when we rally, and it's helping us when people make comments that are derogatory and condescending. So those are the allies that we also need. We need allies in our school districts, in our police departments, and everywhere. But again, it's not spending money in our community or just going to the beach because it's really pretty, but it's actually advocating when they see something wrong. So that's who my family is. Those are those people that I just defined, and that's what I would look forward to for anyone that wants to become a part of our family.
Thank you. So I kind of want to just read a comment from Odessawa. So she mentioned, in the work we do through the Minority Health Office, we work to promote the do no harm mentality, especially because we know we will not change every heart and mind. So let's see. So how would you say we can all do this in our perspective spaces, places, communities? And she said, thank you for sharing. So actually, Odessa, we're going to hold off on that question because we somewhat have a question that our panelists are going to be answering that's somewhat related to that. But thank you for sharing that information as far as minority health. I just want to give Christian an opportunity to chime in on that second question.
Support is extremely important. I think a lot of us, we enter this community alone, and a part of that feeling doesn't go away for a while. And it's scary because your network and your family and your world kind of is in question when you're coming out and when you're trying to find your way and find a way to put words to what you're feeling inside. And, I think that's community is extremely important, and having a supportive space is extremely important. Here in Suffolk County, we have over 9,000 employees. We're out there, we're kind of everywhere, and being respectful, being kind, and at the end of the day, we're all want the same thing, which is to be loved, respected, feel encouraged, and have an opportunity to prove ourselves in the space that we're occupying. So I would say, I've been very fortunate now that I don't feel that loneliness as much, but it was hard in the beginning. And my parents did push back in the beginning, like Tamika mentioned, but it took me 17 years to figure out the words and to accept myself. And I was able to give that space and time for my parents. And the greatest thing is that now every year we march together in pride, and
Nice.
That's a beautiful thing. And showing up means a lot. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, it's so pertinent to have that support. and allies. So I definitely glad to hear, right, that, on the other side of things where things may not have, been so great in the beginning, but as time goes on and awareness, right, you all have that encouragement.
I do want to say there's a question about pronouns in the chat.
Mm,
And I really so much appreciate that coming up. And for the person that wrote that, just know it's about her nephew is identifying as they, them, and she sometimes struggles with that pronoun. I'll be transparent. Sometimes I struggle with it too, and in remembering to use those pronouns because it's new to our community. But it's amazing that you're trying, and you just keep doing that, and that's what it means to show up for your nephew. And your nephew is going to be okay with when it doesn't happen every so often, you self-correct. So just keep trying, and just your recognition and honoring the fact that that's the pronoun that your nephew wants to use means everything to your nephew. So congratulations to you on really trying and recognizing the need to do that.
absolutely. Thank you for addressing that, Sandy. So our next question is, why is LGBTQ plus diversity important? Anyone would like to answer that first?
Well, I think Christian said it right when he said we are here, we are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that, in any workplace, in any household, or, economic background or neighborhood, it doesn't matter where you come from. We exist in those neighborhoods, as affluent or as poor as you may be. We are there. And the importance of us acknowledging that is the fact that in every walk of life, and you may have CEOs, you may have cleaning people, wherever, if you're the boss of a location or owner of something, the importance of understanding that these are your employees.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people that work for you, and they should be judged based on how they work and not, anything else about them. And there should be certain things, I feel like, once it's known, certain things can be in place. Like, we have the domestic partnership stuff now, we are allowed to get married, but as we say, all that's in jeopardy almost every day, depending on, who we're voting for, and what they stand for. But I think it's important because we exist in every walk of life that there is. For
Absolutely.
me, that's why it's important.
I just think diversity in itself, whether it's your ethnic your makeup, your religion, your race, your sexual orientation, I think diversity as a whole is important to the population. We all bleed the same color. We all want the same things. How we get there might look a little different. Some of our values and thoughts might be a little different. But I think just accepting and acknowledging that every single one of us is a human being, and that we should just be respected and loved for who we are. So I wouldn't even distinguish LGBTQ as something. Why is it important? I think any population of persons who think differently or might look differently is important to be diverse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and echoing that, I think the positions we hold and having that like fundamental knowledge, understanding of our community gives us a different perspective of how we should be serving everyone. And I think that's important. And I think having examples for youth of, well, I can do that, they're doing it. They then challenge what we can all do and how we can rise higher than our own thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Even in 2022, there's a lot of firsts that are still happening.
Right.
And it's important for us to be out and proud so that, we have more people pushing that boundary and becoming more first.
Yeah.
And, there is no more first, and we all did everything.
It kind of goes along the lines of what that saying is, right? You can't be what you can't see, right? So representation, you need to be able to know that you have the ability, right, to do any and everything, right? So let's see, we have one question in here, I believe. So kind of like an ad hoc question. What would you say to a coworker who is afraid to come out and approaches you for advice and support? Anyone?
So I'll kick it because it's happened, and Tamika, probably you too. We just share our stories for my own personal stuff because I'm a part of the community. And I give them support knowing that I'm here for their safety net if they choose to come out to their coworkers. But I also refer them to the various programs and resources that are available to them that might have a little bit more of an engagement and ways of walking them through how to come out. Coming out is really stressful because you don't know how folks are going to react, not only internally, but also society-wise. And social media plays a really big role in that. When I came out, there was no Facebook and there was no this the first time anyways. There's a whole big story for that one because it came out twice. The second time I came out and my partner gave me 24 hours to tell everybody because she was on Facebook. And I'm being jovial about it, but I think it's just being that safety net for that person and that ally for that person, and then knowing the resources to refer.
Thank you. Anyone else have any
I
suggestions?
agree with Sandy. Just to be there to support them and understand they're not alone, and to share any story that I can to be of assistance. But I do agree that there's resources out there that somebody could even have like maybe a group session with them and who they would like to come out to, and maybe a better setting for them opposed to just being at your house by yourself and saying by the way, but I do think the support system is very important. They need to understand that they're not alone, that things may not be as bad as they are. Maybe things will be, but if they are, like, it's okay and it will get better.
Absolutely. Words of encouragement. Thank you. So our next question kind of piggybacks off of Christian made a statement as far as the role that you serve. So it's, how do you think being part of the LGBTQ plus community has shaped the way you serve as a leader in public service and government?
So, yeah, I think, like I mentioned before, creating space is extremely important. Showing up is extremely important. Our existence is our resistance. So that shapes the way you look at policy. It shapes the way you look at taking that extra step. It shapes what you do after work. I'm sure my partner would like me to not be working so much and be home and just hang out and watch more movies. But, I go to the rallies and I go to the protests and I do the voter drive and I do all these things, not because it's easy, but because I know that if I do it and someone else does it, it multiplies and it becomes a bigger movement. So I think I am very fortunate in where I am, and I need to use that privilege to keep the conversation going and keep pushing it forward.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to think like how that shapes anything. I mean, I'm African-American female, the second Black female in Suffolk history to be sergeant. April Hargrove is number one. We came out of the same class in 2010. So we both got promoted in 2021. So with that being said, my position as a leader comes from that first. And I think being part of the LGBTQ society and the community is just another advantage for me, in the sense that, like, you're letting not only women understand that, you can do anything you put your mind to. But also the LGBTQ community knows, like, like we do exist, we're here, and we hold rank in this department. So understand that, and hopefully, like, being part of the advisory board is something I would not have done. I'm not gonna lie, like, it's not something that I've ever thought of. I'm not really like a political person, but I realize my position matters, so I should make myself relevant and be seen so people know that I exist, and I'm not going anywhere. So
Right. Your voice deserves to be heard, right?
I appreciate that.
I have to just piggyback on the both of them. I don't think that my leadership has changed because I'm LGB. I think my leadership has changed because I'm a part of a marginalized population, which has given me a different lens of looking through. So I make sure that we celebrate things like Black History Month and Pride Month in small ways, in comfortable ways, because I know a lot of these topics are uncomfortable for our employees and our society. You know, I do a lot on Cherry Grove in regards to, I host it, well, I'm a part of an event in which we support foster youth who identify as LGB, and we bring them to Cherry Grove and we help them understand that there's a society out there that really embraces them and accepts them for who they are. And I've done that in the city, and I've done other events out here as well, and equity inclusion. So again, I think as a leader, I'm not necessarily looking through the lens of LGB, but more of being a part of a marginalized population.
Thank you. So I just want to let you all know, panelists, I'm not sure if you can see the chat, but you have support from your colleagues. You know, they're giving you shout outs, you know, they're sharing their stories, they're connecting with you all. So, you know, the fact that, you know, they're here to support you, and you know, there's a connection there. I think this is just wonderful. If you can't see, you know, I'm sorry I can't read everyone's comment, but thank you for those who have shared. You're asking questions and you're giving your support. That's definitely most appreciated. So this question, I do believe, ties into what Odessawa may have asked. So what effective practices do you think employers can use to make the workplace more LGBTQ plus inclusive? Would anyone like to go first? Oh.
I think certain things are easy, like, you know, zero tolerance for like the jokes, or, you know, any kind of hate speech at all. Having a policy where, like, people feel comfortable approaching a supervisor in reference to any issue, and not feel retaliation is going to happen if they're talking about themselves or somebody in their behalf. I think that I think that when people feel comfortable being themselves at work, you have less issues, you know. And like Suffolk County Police Department, I can honestly say, has like embraced, you know, the LGBTQ society, and has been nothing but forthcoming in any conversation that we have. If there's any issues, I have people I can approach if there's a member in the department that has an issue, whether it's an issue with a boss or maybe it's an issue at home that I personally can't address. They can lead me to the right way. You know, it's nice to know that, you know, we can be insured. We can have insurance. You know, insurance is big. Like if I'm married to you, I want my job to be able to provide me with insurance and things like that people take for granted, really. Like, oh, I'm married, so I can have insurance, or I live with you, I can have insurance. That's not always the case. That hasn't been the case for a long time. So I think if employees appreciate the fact that LGBTQ community have families, and they should respect our family as they want their family respected. I think that goes far.
Thank you.
And I think it is, I mean, there's a few things in the chat, but I think I don't think anyone's expecting everyone to understand the LGBT community, or they may have different values or beliefs. And you have to respect that. But as an employer, I think it's important for you to at least be resourceful, know where to refer someone, and not dismiss it, and not push it off or make fun of it, or but really acknowledge and become educated about what's out there to refer them. Celebrate Pride Month, just like any other marginalized population that we celebrate on a monthly basis, and it's Hispanic Month and International Month, but really just acknowledging that LGBT is a marginalized population that needs to be just given its respect, and again, becoming educated and celebrating.
Absolutely. So someone mentioned in the chat, no one in my department has ever acknowledged Pride, yet everything else is celebrated year long. So, what I do want to mention is that's where the Office of Diversity and Inclusion comes into play, right? Where we want to acknowledge, we want everyone to have a sense of belonging, and it's something that we're looking closely at to, possibly have employee resource groups, right? So those of you, maybe who have an interest, right? It's something that we're curating, right? But we want to start first with, as a unit and a department, is recognizing, some of those monumental moments, or, certain history and certain days that need awareness. So I'm sorry to hear that. But just know that the Office of Diversity and Inclusion is working to explore what we can do as far as inclusivity and employees feeling belonged and, feeling valued and their voices being heard. And I apologize, Christian, if you want to
Yeah, no,
answer.
I think it's a perfect intro to a little shout out to my boss, County Executive Steve Ballone, for his leadership in appointing Retha Fernandez, who's on the call here, as our first Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, forming the LGBTQ Advisory Board, raising the Pride flag in a very open and celebrational way. There's more we can do, but I think we all need to be able to have our input and create that kind of conversation with the inclusion department and with us here in the county executive, where if there's something that you feel uncomfortable, we should be aware of it. And at the end, policy is important. Management being responsive is important. No tolerance is important. And at the end of the day, compliance is important. So if you do feel that there's someone overstepping or there's harassment or anything, do file a complaint with the labor relations. We do follow that through. We do investigations and interviews, and I've been a part of those. So all these things are important, but we also need the muscle to push back in case there is things that are crossing the line. So feel comfortable to be able to make complaints and make a record, because especially here where we have a lot of civil service employees, unless there's a record, there's very little we can do. So
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. So last but not least, we have one more question. What does Pride Month mean to you? And how can we best celebrate Pride? Or maybe how do you celebrate Pride?
it's a great question, because I think it's been very commercialized. I think there's a lot of big corporations who kind of hijacked what the true meaning of pride is. And, well-intentioned, I'm sure. But for me, pride is a recognition of those who've come before us, those who we've lost during this long journey. the empty rooms that would have other been filled if our government didn't respond sooner, or if they didn't feel like the only option they had was to take their own lives. So it's a part of recognizing that history, another part of celebrating life and celebrating love and celebrating where we are now, and then a recommitment to keep fighting forward, to keep working together and having these conversations, because any minute, a lot of this can be rolled back and we just can't allow that. So, and to have a good time and go to Fire Island, of course.
That's right. Tamika knows that.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sorry, Sandy.
no, go ahead.
I think that, like Kristen said, it's about, remembering those that came before us, that fought a battle that we didn't have to fight. But it's also, for me, it triggers something for the younger generation, so they can see us out there, to know that they'll be okay. Because I came out as a child and I'm okay, and letting them know, like, if people want to, like, we are here for them. And I absolutely think it's important for the younger generation to understand and to see that we march in parades for a reason. Yes, we always have a great time. But there's so much of a bigger picture. But even to get some of them to march is the first step of them acknowledging the fact that they are part of something very, very monumental. And hopefully with them, they can help other kids, and we try our best with the suicide rate of these children that we can help them out. So that's me with pride.
Thank you.
No problem.
And for me, I think we celebrate, for those of us in the community, right? We celebrate Pride every day, but I think Pride Month affords us an opportunity to pause and talk with our older generations. Their stories are powerful. They're strong people. And there are many that are still alive, obviously, from the Stonewall riots. And there's a huge story background between Cherry Grove and the Pines. And if anyone doesn't know it, but the AIDS epidemic, I've lost too many people in my life to that. So it really does give me an opportunity to pause and reflect, because life moves so fast, 11 months out of the year. And I sometimes forget. So it lets me do that. And then sometimes it also just, it re-energizes me to do something different in the community. And then people get crazy because I have too many ideas. But it gives me an opportunity to pause and reflect.
Thank you. So I want to acknowledge someone asked a question. Does the office do any staff trainings? Diversity, years ago, there was staff trainings conducted by an outside agency. I found them to be very helpful. So every year, I do believe that the county does launch a diversity and inclusion training, which I think this year it should be coming out shortly to answer that question. But then Retha also mentioned in the chat that we're looking into, right? So our office is exploring developing an LGBTQ employee resource group where employees can lead and participate in inclusion activities across the county. And we will send out an email to understand interest from our employees. So, we're listening to you all, we're writing down those suggestions. We understand the importance of diversity, inclusion, belonging. We understand that. So please continue to look out for those emails and notices that go out to you all, looking to have you all be participatory. Okay.
Yeah, and I would just add, and I think Rita's putting in the chat that
Oh, it's implicit bias
yeah,
training. Okay,
implicit
excuse
bias
me.
training that Legislator Richburg put into legislation that now is a requirement. And there is another 2.0 training I'm sure Rita's working on that has a larger conversation to it.
Yes. She said, yes, we are. Aretha's awesome and amazing. Just having her advocate and, her institutional knowledge regarding this is just so awesome. right? Because you need champions behind, right, the goals and the mission. So truly, thank you, Retha, for doing what you're doing. Definitely. Do we have any last minute statements, questions?
Just to make everybody aware that like I am pretty much an open book, and if there's somebody out there within the police department, or you have family and friends that are looking to come out that are in the police department, civilian or sworn members, that I am easily accessible, and they can feel free to contact me at any time.
Yeah, and I'll also add that the LGBTQ advisory board, which started this year, is your advisory board too. So please feel free to reach out to that board if you want to get more involved with what we're doing. Please do get involved, because a lot of stuff that we do is advise the county executive on things that we can improve for the county and for the employees here. So if you have any interest, please reach out to Retha, and I'm sure she'll connect us.
Absolutely. Darnell says, thank you for this. Thank you to this panel. Powerful, informative, visible, professional, and impactful. Happy Pride. Thank you, Darnell. We also have someone that said, these lunchtime Zooms are so valuable. Thank you all so much for sharing your experience. So I think that concludes our webinar for this afternoon. Thank you to our panelists for sharing your stories, giving words of encouragement, but then also, right, giving us insight. So it's definitely truly appreciative. Thank you so much to our attendees, the questions, the comments, the support. So thank you, everyone. Truly appreciate it. Thank
Happy
you.
Pride.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Have a great weekend, everyone. Be safe
Thank you.
this weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Be well. Bye-bye.